Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the Countrywide Coordinator Training with Anna Maria Riezinger. Anna is not on the call yet, but it is a quarter past the hour and we're ready to get started. My name is Michelle Ford and I'm the coordinator, a co-coordinator for the California Assembly along with Janice Toomey. Thank you for being here with all of us tonight and happy early Independence Day. um, what you got on your mind, Anna?
Well, hopefully I will be doing a semi-traditional 4th of July podcast with Neathy um, on Saturday, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen simply because she's had such a bad case of bronchitis. So if I don't see you on Saturday, everybody, happy 4th of July in advance. We should get out and enjoy ourselves and celebrate the founding principles of our country and feel real good about what we're doing here and now. Because even though our sufferings are small by comparison to what our forefathers suffered at Valley Forge, we've certainly been standing a good deal of pushback and harassment and bad faith from our federal service providers over the last several months. But anyway, get out there and have a great 4th of July, whether or not I get to do the podcast or not. And also, let's have just a moment of appreciating how much pets add to our lives. Terry Sam lost her beloved little dog this morning, and we certainly understand what that grief is all about. Animals add so much to our lives. They are our faithful companions and share in our joys and our sadness and are comfort to us in so many ways. And so we certainly extend our sympathy and our understanding to Terry. And we hope that in days to come, she will recover and find room in her heart and in her house for another puppy. That's how we all get by this tragic loss that so many of us are too familiar with. And I will just say that many of the diseases that are afflicting our animals are caused by the same pernicious practices and pollutants that are causing the increase in human diseases. So we cannot look at what's happening in the veterinary world and the shortening of the lifespan of dogs and cats and domestic animals like cows that is occurring, and look the other way, because the same thing is happening to us. So anyway, just wanted to take a moment and all of us think about how important animals are in our lives and how animal health reflects our health too.
Thank you, Anna. And my heart does go out to Terry for people who don't have or who haven't had a pet like that. It's hard to fathom how much of a loss it really is when you lose a beloved pet. All that unconditional love that they give us it's just irreplaceable, it seems like. And so poor Terry, I'm so sorry that she's going through that. And thank you for letting us know. I have a feeling a lot of people on the call and listening to the playback are going to send her some love and prayers. And to your second, to your point about, you know, these practices, That's a particular topic that is really, really, really close to my heart. And you're absolutely right. We need to stop injecting our animals with all of these toxins and adjuvants and preservatives and all of the crazy things, these concoctions where they have not done proper safety testing and everything. It's got to stop, in my opinion. So too many have suffered.
Right, and we need to enforce better standards for pet food too, because in some cases they've found that these dry kibbles are actually contain feces that have been boiled down. And we're literally buying feces, dried feces that has been boiled, and things like chicken beaks to our dogs and cats, and really there should be action taken to force pet food producers to actually produce food for animals when they are selling dog food and cat food.
I had no idea. That is so disgusting.
Oh, I know. How would we know? It's through animal rights activists and animal nutrition activists that we even know that this is a problem. But it is, it's a verified problem, and nothing's being done about it, similar to how nothing is being done about our milk supplies, our eggs, or anything. There's no truth in labeling. We have all these different labels, but they're not required to be truthful. For example, they're allowed to say anything's organic that's carbon based. It totally takes away the meaning that we all assume to apply to organic food. But unless it's certified organic with a label or from a trusted source that we know, a farmer or somebody, there's no way out there to verify that something that says it's organic, that it is organic, because in one sense, anything that is composed of carbon is organic. So, you see, we have problems all across the line on foodstuffs and on food quality, and that is contributing to a lot of the illness and the diseases and chronic inflammation and everything else that we and our pets are suffering.
Yeah,
We have our work cut out for us, folks.
we sure do, Anna. We sure do.
So upward and onward. I guess that is Rocky the first guy in line here tonight, or do you have a
Yep,
different list? Okay,
that's
let's.
who I see first. Go ahead, Rocky.
Trying to get myself unmuted. Um, and as you know, I'm writing the manual for how to build the counties and Union State, whatever. And Luis and Neethi, and also tomorrow has actually started to help too and pulling this together. But I have a question on, there was a question that, hang on here. Whoops. There was a question on one of the questions I asked you prior was on the pillars for the Union State. And what you said was that the Union State doesn't have the International Business Assembly, which is true because that is, land and air jurisdiction, which wouldn't be soil, right?
Right.
So
it has its own jurisdiction.
Right. So I was assuming, which is bad on my part, that the Union State then would have, if it didn't have, the only one it didn't have was international, that it would have your General Assembly, your Jural Assembly, and your Militia Assembly. Am I assuming that correct, or is that wrong?
Well, pardon me. You do have a general assembly. You do have a militia assembly. And you do have a
Juror.
juror assembly. But you can also have an executive assembly to conduct business for your county.
Okay.
So you know, you don't have to do everything in general assembly. You can set aside, you know, basic business functions that paying the bills, for example,
Uh-huh.
or keeping records for the county.
Right.
You can handle that kind of business as a separate business assembly. It's just not an international business assembly.
Okay. So they really could have 4 pillars with this business assembly,
Right.
dealing
It's
with
just
the soil jurisdiction expenses and stuff that need to happen.
right. And services that you want at a local level, and even regulatory functions that you want at a local level.
Mm-hmm.
Things like maintaining and operating solid waste management facilities and parks and all those things. You still have them at the county level. You just have to think of it in terms of it being within your county
Right.
and being domestic within our country,
Uh-huh.
and you know, maintain your local focus. If it's international business, and that includes between states, because our states are nation states, right?
Right.
If it's international business, it's something that the State of the Union Assembly handles.
Right. Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was my question. I'll let everybody else, start asking questions, but thank you very much. I want to thank also Lisa for helping tomorrow on her training, and Michelle for putting on such a good platform with you. I love it. It's been good. Thank you very much.
You bet, Rocky. Have fun.
Thank you, Rocky. Okay, we have Mary on Minnesota. Hi, Mary.
Hey, everybody. Good
Uh-oh,
evening, Anna.
we're in trouble now.
No trouble yet. The pickles are not done. Cucumbers haven't even grown.
You know, it's so sad. My husband died before he got a chance to eat any of those pickled beets. He would have really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I'm sad that he didn't get to try them either. But like I said, maybe you can share them with him spiritually, vicariously. I don't know.
Yeah, well, everything has its energy. Who knows?
That's right.
Maybe in heaven they taste things just as well as we do.
Maybe. So a couple really simple questions, and I'll get out of the way for everybody else because there's lots of hands up. Does the Federation have a process in place for evaluating assemblies ready for seatment?
We've been working on that over the course of several months. Lisa and the Ohio Assembly set up a sort of a framework toward that. And then the chairman of our Federation effort died and kind of left everything in disarray. So we've had to regroup and recoup and try to deal with that at the same time that all these massive international issues have arisen. So we've made a start on it. There was no such thing ever provided to us. You know, we couldn't find any kind of, just one second. We couldn't find any evidence of what our forefathers used. There was no checklist or procedure that we ever unearthed that spoke to that particular question. So we have to do it ourselves.
Shoot from the hip.
Well, I guess. Or take our cojones in hand and say, well, we're going to do it. You know, But you're right. There is a need for some sort of a checklist where we can go and say, okay, this is done, and this is done, and this is done, and they've demonstrated their knowledge in this area, and tick, 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 And we don't really have that. And at the moment, we don't have the personnel to be able to pull it off in all the different regions of the country. I think there's been, though, a general misunderstanding about the importance of seatment, and that is that you are seated. You are seated in General Assembly, so you are already seated. The issue of being quote unquote fully seated just means that you have all of your functions operating, and you can, be verified that, yeah, you've got record keeping, you've got a bank account that works, you've got a jury system and a court system that works, you've got an international or business assembly that works. And so, but right now we don't have enough people on staff at the federation level to handle all the work we've got, plus do that.
Right. Makes sense. So then, that being said, are there any assemblies that have been evaluated by the Federation or that you have deemed being fully seated that have handled all their operations and have done all their elections and have their bank accounts and all of that?
Not that we have actually gone out and visited. See, doing this requires us to actually go there, meet with the people, see what they're doing, and actually affirm that, yeah, well, we went there and they have a Jural Assembly, that they have enough people in the Jural Assembly and they know what they're doing. And yeah, they've got a banking committee and, all these different things. So we haven't had the people to go out and actually travel to each assembly. And there are only 3 assemblies that have raised their hands and think that they actually are at that stage yet. And they're all on the eastern side of the United States, a long, long way away from me. So it's not like, I have to have somebody boots on the ground, a committee of some sort, that actually goes around and meets these people and competently evaluates and has a checklist. So you see, but we can still conduct business because once you're seated in General Assembly, you are seated.
Right.
And you have the authority to tell your state legislature what your priorities are. And to do all the other things that you really need to do, you can just do it from General Assembly. And then when it comes to the Jural Assembly, each Jural Assembly is a separate organization within the assembly, right? And if you've got your court up, the only ones who are going to question that are going to be the de facto bar attorneys. And, they're going to have to come around and actually challenge your declaration that you are ready under the ex parte Milligan. And if they have any questions or they want to argue that you're not sufficient for your purposes and needs, they're going to have to make that an official evidence-based claim, or they have to stuff it and accept it.
Well, and good luck with that because they don't know what the Constitution is even, so they can't perform their own duties.
Well, yeah, and really they're not focused on that, which is, it's because they think they've successfully redefined all of us as British subjects. They think they've successfully commandeered us, and we're just going to accept all of the rules of the statutory law that attach to British subjects and British citizens. But we already had an 8-year-long war over that fact, and everybody knows it's not true. So we're bringing that forward in international diplomatic discussions and judicial arenas now. And we are pushing for a resolution on all of this. And we're hoping that what should happen is that all these British Crown and Roman municipal corporations are nationalized.
Where we take them over, right?
Right, right. And beginning with the banks, which have established a monopoly, an illegal monopoly on banking services and on banking transfers, on currency transfers. And so we're making all of these claims at this time, but because of all the work that we've done over the years, serving due notice and everything else, there isn't a lot that needs to be proven at this point. So
Right.
I'm just sort of waiting for the last gasp questions or, counterclaims or whatever. We, by the way, we're not trying to recreate the wheel or make unjust or unreasonable settlement demands. We aren't looking to go back to 1860 and do a comprehensive fiscal audit of everything that's happened since then to determine, whether or not a specific expenditure back in 1868 was under the Constitution or not. Okay, we're not looking for that kind of in-depth, extreme bean counter oriented accounting and settlement. We're looking for something where we can go forward into the future. And so we may just have to get to a point where we say, okay, that's the past. This is the present. This is what we have going forward. And unless there can be demonstrated some really good reason to go back more than 10 or 20 years, we're going to settle it for this.
Great. Okay. Regarding like having your banking set up for your assemblies, being the situation that all of these banks are currently in, do you still advise that we have a bank account in their system or just wait till our own bilateral trade banks are up and going?
Well, I sure wouldn't be keeping a whole bunch of money in their banks, because depending on how the transition goes and how the takeover goes, they could wind up claiming that all of FRNs that are in their banks are worthless.
Theirs. Yeah.
So it's a scary situation all across the line here, where we're looking at, if you invest in gold and silver, can you convert it into cash when you need it? If you're keeping all your assets in cash, can you be sure it's going to be worth anything tomorrow?
Right.
Who's going to stand there and make it good? Okay.
Right.
And that in banking, that has something more than just the happy overtones. It's the underwriting. Now, we can underwrite it, but if we're underwriting it, then we have to have access to our credit. And this is where the big push and fight is over, because they do not want to give us access to our credit. They do not want us to be able to issue credit certificates against their debts. It's much more convenient for them if they can mischaracterize us as debtors and prevent us from paying.
Of course.
So that's a big part of the struggle that we're having right now. Plus, we're having problems with the British Crown trying to do flanking operations and gain a commandeering position over us. We have been dealing with and rebuffing numerous attempts by the British Crown to assert oversight on our chartered corporations, which of course is not allowable. No sovereign entity can have oversight by any other sovereign entity and still maintain their own sovereignty. So we cannot put up with any British Crown corporation thinking that it's going to retain oversight on our independently chartered banks and independently chartered corporations. If we, have our own military paymaster, they don't get to tell us diddly squat poo poo about it, And so we've had a lot of British Crown interference as they continue to struggle to keep control of American sovereign assets and American sovereign prerogatives. But so far we're leading the charge and keeping a peaceful but determined objection to all such attempts. Part of it may be ignorance. Some people do not know anything beyond the British system.
Sure.
And so some of it may just be assumptions that they make in ignorance. But we have to be on our toes and put an end to that kind of activity right where it gets started.
Right. Last question, I promise. You just required all assemblies provide a PKTF liaison from the militia assembly. Is that man or woman simply elected by the militia assembly, or is it somebody that gets brought before the General Assembly for the whole General Assembly to approve?
No, it's fine if the militia assembly just chooses one among them to, be the contact person. We need a contact person because if something happens in your state and you need help, and we need to coordinate all of the available public safety resources that we have, we need to have the PKTF there networking all of those different jurisdictional units and organizations in a joint effort. So I have to repeat my story about Hurricane Helene. It was an absolute terrible situation, as you all know, and devastation beyond belief, and lives in the balance. And our people rushed there from all over America. The Americans came and they were wonderful. They donated heavy equipment. They donated helicopters. They worked as ground crews. They threw up warehousing. They, moved God only knows how many tons of relief supplies that were badly needed in terrible conditions and bad terrain. And in one way, it was a really wonderful experience in that you got to see the bravery and the generosity of the American people. On another level, however, it was really, it was very disorderly and wild. And at some points, we were almost to a point of gun battles with FEMA, because the FEMA personnel thought that they were in charge and that they were going to seize all of the donated supplies, and they were going to ground our helicopters and keep our heavy equipment from moving trees out of the roads, and keep our personnel from flying rescue. And our people were not standing down. And so it, on several occasions, came to guys drawn up facing each other across a parking lot, guns at the ready.
Mm-hmm.
And we do not want that to happen again. What we want is for everybody to know who everybody else is and accept their autonomy and their freedom to operate, and for us to not have any of those kinds of arguments that waste time and waste effort and get in the way of rescue. And that's why the PKTF needs a liaison with your militia.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Anna. That's all I got. Sign it off.
I see you have a puppy there.
Big puppy. Yeah.
Yeah, this is my 2-year-old German short hair pointer lap dog.
Yeah, well, it just goes to the point that we were making earlier, how much joy they add to our lives.
Oh, yes. Couldn't imagine a day without her.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, John Russell is up next. Go ahead, John Russell.
Good evening, Anna. How are you doing?
Well, I'm about 10 clicks south of Finest Frogs there, but I think I'm going to make it.
All righty. I just wanted to tell you that on Saturday, South Carolina will be at the Peach Festival again this year, and talking with people that are there and let them know about South Carolina Assembly and what we have to offer for them. So we've got a bunch of people who are going to show up to help me and get the word out. So just thought I'd let you know that we are going to be there, and I hope we have a great time, because I'm sure we will.
That's wonderful,
And
John.
happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th
And I
of
thank
July.
you for all you do.
Happy Peach
And I
Festival.
yield. Thank you. And good night.
I wish I were there to eat some of those peaches.
Oh, that peach ice cream is, oh my gosh, it's really, really good.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
That's awesome, John Russell. Thank you. Okay, Jennifer Gibson on Florida. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Hi, Michelle. I didn't
Going
say
on,
hi
dear?
last time I talked. Hi, Anna. I just wanted to say thank you for your article that you sent on July 1st. I also want to send condolences to Terry Som. I know firsthand how difficult that is, and I hope she can understand that it's part of having an animal. The sad part of saying goodbye equals the love that you put in. And as a veterinarian, I work with people just about every day through this. So I'm just sending her some well wishes for that. So I just wanted to give a brief Florida update after I thank you for the notice. We've been working really hard on Florida. We've got just about all of our elected positions filled with pro temp people, and they are working on their offices and getting ready for to fill those in our election at the end of the year. Most of our standing committees are formed and are actively meeting. Our bank account is open and active, and we are trying to, we have a funding campaign to get our servers set up, to get our record keeping established. Our website should be published any day now. And we are just rolling along at high speed. So I wanted to thank you, Anna, for your guidance with all of the kind of drama that's been going on. And I also want to thank the Continental Marshals, especially Paul and our Chief Sean Sorensen, who's our Area 3 Chief Marshal. I want to thank Lisa Schaefer, Debbie Joe on Tennessee, and our friends in Texas, Georgia, Michigan, many other states that we have learned from and answered our questions, given us a lot of support and guidance. We definitely could not have done, we couldn't be where we're at without working as a team and to make these accomplishments in kind of a short amount of time. So we just want to thank everybody and just happy 4th of July, and We are doing good in Florida, despite the heat. I know you guys are all suffering from the heat, and us in Florida are like, whatever. This is our normal. Welcome to the heat wave.
Well, I hope you have good weather to go with the heat.
Yeah.
No hurricanes allowed.
Well, we will deal with those as it comes, but so far it's looking good. Definitely for the weekend, we should have a perfect weather.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that you're making progress. I do not understand how Florida could have organized to the extent that it has in the past and still not understood the real basics of the process. I was just stunned to run across references to Ralph's assembly. You know, I'm sorry, the Florida Assembly doesn't belong to Ralph or anyone else as an individual, and it's not a private club. It's a government institution. It belongs to everyone in Florida who claims their natural birthright as a living American and, you know, as a Floridian. And so I hope that everybody enters into it with that spirit of commonality and mutual support and mutual benefit that can be achieved by having a well-established and well-rounded assembly. And I hope that those people that kind of got off track and didn't understand that you know, coordinators volunteer and come forward as ASN.
All of the kind of drama that's been going on. And I also want to thank the Continental Marshals, especially Paul and our Chief Sean Sorensen, who is our Area 3 Chief Marshal. I want to thank Lisa Schaefer, Debbie Joe on Tennessee, and our friends in Texas, Georgia, Michigan, many other states that we have learned from and answered our questions, given us a lot of support and guidance. We definitely could not have done, we couldn't be where we're at without working as a team and to make these accomplishments.
To help organize their assembly, and it's anyone who wants to do the work, okay, can get the training and pass the vetting, and they're a coordinator just as much as any other coordinator, and they need to be included as part of the coordinator team. And that's, you know, that's just the way it is.
Yes, and we have an open door to every ASN, ASC on Florida. We need more people, you know, anyone. We send invitations. We are having 2 meetings a week. We send those invitations to everybody on Florida, and we welcome everyone.
That's it. That's the way it needs to be, is that everybody is welcome. There's no cronyism. There's no deceit. There's no blackballing. There's no discrimination of any kind based on politics, age, sex, religion, race, none of that. Here in America, we are set up to be a brotherhood or sisterhood of all the people. Everybody who is claiming their state national status and taking their nationality from their state of the union. I mean, I don't know what there is that I could say about this that I haven't already said, but we should be looking at each other with great love and appreciation. Every person who stands up and comes forward ought to be embraced and celebrated and brought home and put to work, frankly, because it's a big job and it's just going to get bigger. you're going to need absolutely all hands on deck. And I keep saying this, but some groups get started and they think that it's just about them and their little group. And they forget that it's not a club. It's a government. So
Definitely. We need all hands. We have 23.5 million people in Florida. We need everybody helping.
yes,
A lot of work.
it's huge.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you.
Have a
Take care,
good
Jennifer.
have a good holiday.
You too.
Thank you, Jennifer. And way to go, Florida. Woo! Okay.
Yeah. South Carolina and Florida are whipping it up.
Awesome. Yeah, North Carolina does have a call every Saturday morning too. So along the lines of teaching and being of service to other assemblies. So it's a great call. Thank you to Rebecca and those that participate. Okay, next up we've got Gwen on Canada. Go ahead, Gwen.
Hello. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Gwen.
Looking for some guidance tonight, and maybe this is too long a question for tonight. So if you need to answer at another time, I totally get that. So we were wondering on Terra Canada if we need to be a summoning authority for the equivalent of our union states as we come forward to be recognized as a state of the union, or if that's a federation job.
Well, this gets into a big harassment sort of issue that we've got going with the British government and, at an international level. And it started when Alberta opted to become a state of state under the British territorial system. And the question is, are they under the Northwest Ordinance to become a state of the Union? We don't know. So we don't know what role the Federation has to play in terms of including the possibly former Canadian provinces as states of the Union. And we don't know yet what kind of proof or authority there would have to be for the Canadians in a particular province to choose to join the United States as a state of the Union.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, Alberta at one point in time was part of Louisiana, or Louisiana was high up into Alberta. I don't know if that's helpful. We know that when it receded, the Northwest Ordinance, as things went south, Alberta was actually part of something called the Northwestern Territory, because on America it was Northwest Ordinance, and we were Northwestern Territory. I don't know if that's helpful. There were other parts of provinces included in that.
Yeah, you see, historically, it's a big mishmash, and even how the borders of the provinces were drawn is in question. And so there are a lot of those kinds of questions that require research yet, and it's not certain. Most likely, a public plebiscite would be required, and all the people living in a particular province would have to consider the question of whether or not they wanted to become a state of the Union and operate as a nation state. And,
Okay.
the pros and cons of that would have to be clearly disclosed to the public, and they'd have to make their choice. But things are so screwed up that right now all of the voting machines are being invalidated on basically a worldwide basis because they discovered a on-screen flipping mechanism. I don't know if you've all been watching Max Wexler's suit against the property taxes in the state of Texas, but it's a gigantic fraud against the people. And as a secondary but related issue that's all going to the Supreme Court, another group of researchers into a similar phenomenon found out that the voting machines have internal actual software for flipping votes. So it invalidates the electoral process. And, now it's a matter of how far back does this go and who is responsible for this, who added this software to the software of the voting machines to enable them to flip elections by flipping individual votes on screen as they happen. But anyway, so they've bungled things up to the point with their corruption that it's not even certain that any of the elected officials are elected by anybody, whether they're elected by the federal civil service workers independents, or are they elected by the military service independents, or, you just can't trust any of the elections that have engaged voting machines. And this is misadministration on the part of the federal subcontractors and their state-of-state franchises. If they hadn't dropped the ball and engaged in corrupt practices to begin with, and if they'd shown due diligence, then we wouldn't have this problem. But as it stands, we don't even know if Trump was elected, or if any of these governors were elected, or if any of the minor officials, the mayors, the county of sheriffs, we simply do not know. And it's a big, big problem, because that leaves nobody with no authority anywhere to do anything.
What about the actions of the people on Alberta? They're running around and getting, I know petitions aren't us, but there's a majority who say they want to go. And that is individual men and women appearing in parking lots, getting signatures together, submitting them into the now de facto, saying yes, yes. But it's our understanding that the premier of the province of Alberta has shaken hands with Charles. So obviously that may not go far, but maybe that's evidence that they do concur.
Well, look at it this way. The de facto government that has been operating here under deceitful, false pretenses the last 160 years is British. It's British territorial. And it's a corporation. It's a British Crown corporation. And each one of these state-of-states are just a franchise of that corporation. So what's to keep Alberta from booting up a British territorial corporation called the State of Alberta and being welcomed by the American corporation as a new franchise? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. A corporation doesn't have the restrictions that a government has, a real government. A corporation doesn't have the form and doesn't exist in the jurisdiction of a lawful government. But of course, what we're concerned about is a lawful government.
Right.
And for it to be a state of the union, it would have to go through the process of the Northwest Ordinance, and it would have to be subject to the Northwest Ordinance. And it isn't really clear if it is or not.
Okay. I get it. Yeah, thank you. I knew it would be complicated. That's why I'm saying if you needed to answer differently or at another time. Yeah, I yield. Thanks, Anna.
That kind of gives
me a feel for it, though. That's what helps us out. So I appreciate it.
Take care.
Have a great night. Yeah, you too.
Thank you, Gwen. All right, Jeff Jackson.
How you doing?
Hello. Welcome to the call.
Hey, I got a question on if a county isn't up and the state, uh, the county had an election through our state, and the county isn't even assembled. Would that sheriff be would he still have control of the county? And if he did, would he be responsible for helping somebody that come to him for help? Could he not turn him away? I yield. Do you understand the question, Anna?
Oh, well, I'm trying to understand the circumstance. You say that
Well,
the
let's
county
say
is,
for instance that somebody went to their sheriff, their elected sheriff, and the man or woman is papered up and a member of the assembly, and the sheriff says, I don't know who you are, or something to that effect, and doesn't want to help him or recognize him.
well,
Um,
what's got me confused here is that you say it's not assembled, yet if it's not assembled, how does it have a sheriff?
that's what I was getting to. That's the question that I'm looking to get answered, because the county isn't assembled. And back then he went through our election committee and followed all they followed all the protocols to get elected and go through their election process. But all the stuff that we've learned since, the question has to be asked, is their election even any good, because they don't have their counties up? They don't have anybody in their county that is doing anything for their county.
Well, strictly speaking, it takes 2 people to populate a county.
I know the population. I'm talking about assembled and offices and getting their treasurer and getting their processes and procedures in place for their county.
Well, you can't have elected officers if you have nothing backing them up. There has to be an assembly of some kind, even if it's just 2 people. The numbers are not the deal with us. If you've got 2 people and they're ASNs on that county is populated, because it follows the dictum of where 2 or more are gathered, and that's always been the way it is. So where you have 2 people on any county, it's populated and they constitute the assembly. If you've got 50 ASNs and they're just sitting around and they haven't bothered to hold meetings, then you've got a different problem. You've got the population, but you haven't properly assembled. If you don't properly assemble, you don't have the structure to support the sheriff. You don't have the court to support the sheriff. You don't
They
have
don't have any oversight, Anna. I mean,
Yeah, right. You can't operate that way. You have to get organized, and then you can elect a sheriff. Does that make
okay,
sense?
so do we dissolve that office? The General Assembly, do they take up that and just dissolve it, the sheriff's elections, or
No,
what?
you're going to have to call a meeting of the,
No, I don't.
Jackson County or Pierce County or whatever county it
Okay,
is. You're going to have to call a meeting of the state nationals living in that county and at that meeting, discuss the need to get organized and assembled as a county so that you have control of the local government. And that would then include electing a sheriff. Now, if there was a assembly in the past, but that assembly no longer exists, and that sheriff's office is just sitting out there in limbo without anything supporting it, I would think that he would be happy to actually get a living, breathing assembly behind him, because he needs a living, breathing assembly and a court and a jury pool and all those other good things to operate.
Yeah. Well, he or she doesn't recognize people that come to him for help on his county, on his or her county.
Well,
You
you
know,
know, if you don't recognize the people, then you're not their sheriff. And I would, call a meeting, dissolve any prior assembly business and any prior assembly elections that were left unsupported, and go from there. Because, we've had a lot of stops and starts in this whole business, because there've been questions that people had that weren't answered or couldn't be answered at the moment, or they got an answer they didn't like, and so they took their bat and ball and went home.
Right.
So we cannot be held by the past. We have to have an actual working assembly and a working sheriff.
right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it and I yield.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, next up.
Betcha, Michelle.
Thank you. We have Gerda on British Columbia. Go ahead, Gerda.
Yes, hello everybody. Hi, Anna. My question is about a recent article that you wrote called Blood Money, number 5875. And it was talking about all members of the Bar Association are hereby served final notice to correct their operations immediately or be blacklisted.
Right.
So, we are
keeping a blacklist of people that are committing crimes against living people.
Okay, yeah, and we're wondering if there is a place where these notices would be posted. We have a couple of doubting Thomases and would like to see the notice, and so just wondering if that's posted anywhere.
Well, it's posted on our channels. It's posted with the international authorities. It was posted with the British. I don't know where else you'd want it posted except to give it to members of the bar and say, look, fellas, you guys have been caught doing some really skullduggerous things, and if you don't want to be an accomplice to it, here's your option out. Don't let your butt be hit by the screen door on the way out. We've done everything we could to warn the members of the bar associations that they have been misled and misdirected, and that they've been operating under false pretenses of war and color of law, and that this is illegal and unlawful as hell. And if they don't stop, then they're accomplices to these crimes of aggravated identity theft, pretense of war, commercial crimes under color of law. I mean, illegal confiscations, illegal latching and salvage activity, illegal taking. All these things are really serious crimes. And they, as lawyers, as attorneys, are presumed to know the law. So if they are participating in these acts, it comes down really hard on them. They lose their credentials, they lose their diplomas, they lose their membership in any professional organizations, they lose their ability to practice before the court. and meaning our court, they cannot continue. A lot of them will go to jail, frankly. So they need to get at least one final notice. Hey, folks, this is serious. You need to get out of the bar associations. This is kind of our last gasp effort to warn them and let them know that, hey, you're engaged in something that is illegal and unlawful, and there's serious crimes that have been and are being committed. And there is no, I went to some length and some pains to explain that there is no war. So I don't know what more we can tell these folks except cover your butts and get out of Dodge.
Yeah, thank you. Do you mean that one more official notice will still be written, or that the final one has been written?
Well, the only other warning that they can expect is from their own court.
Okay. Okay, and what should, is there something that you can advise us that we would look at to see whether lawyers are stepping down in Canada? We're just watching. This would be a big boost for people to know that, yes, this is beginning to crumble here.
You don't have district courts in Canada, right?
Correct.
The most available obvious sign will be the disappearance of district courts. And, that is one of the first things that needs to be done to clean up the whole corruption of the judiciary, is to remove the district courts back to the District of Columbia where they belong.
Okay.
And so that's the big thing. The dissolution of the Bar Association corporations is another thing that will be a big flag, because these corporations have engaged in illegal, unlawful, and immoral acts. And I fully expect that the bar associations that have been incorporated will be dissolved. But what's really going to start happening as a result of all this is that individual lawyers are going to look at this and they're going to go, oh my God. And they're going to be scared, and they're going to leave the profession in droves, even though many of them can't afford to. And that's a loss to us, because even though it takes about 1.5 years to retrain a bar attorney to function in a common law court on average, they still have skills, they still have a knowledge of the law, they can still read law. So we would prefer to retain these people as honest counselors of law. And, just give them the time and support to learn the common law so that they can practice in common law courts and not starve in the meanwhile. We're just, it's a tough situation, because 99.9% probably think they're doing the right thing the right way, because that's the way it's always been done in living memory. They're not aware of the big picture and the crimes that have been committed. And so, you tell the average lawyer this, and the first time they hear it, they go, what? No, that's not possible. And then they stop to think about it a little more, and they go, well, that doesn't seem quite right. And yeah, I know that Shady over there has pulled a bunch of bad real estate deals, and yeah, well, that doesn't seem to jive with the Constitution. Bit by bit, they start coming around and realizing that, hey, fellas, I'm involved in a real racket here. I'm a racketeer. And racketeering is illegal. And I'm presumed to know the law, so the punishment falls a lot harder on me than it does on Joe Average.
Yeah, all right. Would it be appropriate for us to send letters to the lawyers in our area, for example?
Well, you certainly could if you want to show mercy to them. You know, this is about mercy. This is about giving people a chance to repent and not be caught in the pincers of a prosecution. You know, we're giving them all the information they need. We're giving them, you know, this is called fair warning. We're telling them, hey, you're out of your lane. You're you're doing something wrong here. And so this is mercy on our part. We're in the mercy seat here. We're trying to open their eyes to see what they're doing. And if they don't open their eyes to see what they're doing after they've been warned, after they've been given the appropriate information, well, then they no longer have any credible deniability. You know, they have to be presumed to know what they were doing and doing it anyway.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And yes, happy 4th of July to you all.
Thank you, Greta. We wish that we don't always take time out and celebrate Canada Day, but maybe in years to come we can have a celebration of our North America or something like that. North America Day.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you.
Take care, dear.
Thank you, Gerda. Okay, Doug on San Diego. Go ahead, Doug.
Thanks, Michelle.
Welcome.
So I've got a couple of kind of related questions and relates also to what people have been talking about here tonight is given your final judgment, civil orders, and also the International Public Notice and Demand American Civil War, and now the blood money notice you just wrote, isn't all that a estoppel in pay?
It should be, Doug, but they're not getting paid the way we think they're getting paid.
No, wait a minute. No, that's PAIS.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It should be, but it's not, because they're not getting paid the way we think they are. They're not functioning as the kind of court we think they're functioning as. It's a deception. It's a false flag. It's color of law. And so when we bring these things forward to them, they self-interestedly misunderstand in the legal sense of understand. If it's a British Crown Corporation court and they're prosecuting the British franchise, then they take it to a municipal court. If it's a municipal franchise and there's an appeal, they take it to the British court, the British Crown Court. And none of these courts have any jurisdiction related to us. They don't even practice a form of law that is supposed to be applied to human beings. They're not supposed to address living people at all. And so it's this whole thing has been incredibly corrupt, incredibly backward. Even the basic premises underlying it are false. And as I've often pointed out, the Civil War wasn't a war. It was an illegal mercenary conflict. And all the war reparations that they collected were bogus. They had no authority or standing to collect war reparations from the southern states. The southern states were not even involved in the Civil War. It was entirely fought by commercial organizations, by businesses. It was fought by the state of North Carolina, the state of South Carolina, the state of Georgia on the Confederate States of America side. If the northern states had been equally honest, they would have taken to the field as the Confederate States of North America, because they were all Confederate states. They were all businesses. Not a single actual state of the Union was involved in the Civil War. There was no declaration of war issued by any Congress. There was no public peace process ending in a treaty or other agreement to end this quote unquote war. And it was all illegal as hell. Okay, and so the very basis, the idea that we've been at war, the justification of having a mercenary force occupying our country for 160 years, having corporation tribunals operating as quote unquote our courts. This entire situation is illegal, unlawful, immoral, and it's been that way for 160 years. So what you're looking at are private corporation tribunals that have been operated by two gigantic parent companies.
And you've said all that.
Yes.
Numerous times, and that's what I'm saying. So, you know, if they're engaged in commerce and the maxims of commerce apply, and we put your information before them, then they are stopped from moving forward, correct?
And that's what happened when Pope Francis subjected the United States Incorporated to Chapter 7 involuntary bankruptcy. That's exactly what happened. The Roman Municipal Corporation was caught engaged in fraud, and so he liquidated it. And that, you know, was his response.
Yeah, I get all that, but what I'm talking about is like in relation to our silver bullet. Okay, we say that you're not using gold and silver coin, and therefore we have no obligation to recognize your utterances. And usurpation with Cohen versus Virginia is treason. And so we put all this before them and ask them to correct the records. And when they don't, then they've defaulted, then there's an estoppel and pays, because, you know, in Cornell Law Library, the definition for estoppel and pay is the person trying to assert the right makes a false statement or false representation to the person they're trying to bring it against, which is exactly what they've done.
Right.
And Webster's in pay says it's something done out of court in the country. That's what it means. It's Old English, Old French, something like that. So anyway, so why can't we just say that this matter is stopped in pays?
Yeah, you could do that. You could try it. It's anybody's guess whether any of their judges will pay attention, because these people have been told to use their discretion, and their discretion often amounts to, well, this is how we always did it.
Right, but I've added some things to the silver bullet. I don't know whether you've seen the most recent ones, but UCC 1-303 says that express terms apply. So I put that in there, and then I've got the maxims of law apply, and I say that, if they have no sovereign delegation of authority, then everything reverts to the maxims of commerce, and therefore they've defaulted. they've defaulted with dishonor. And so it's a commercial judgment, commercial
Right.
default judgment, and
Right.
we've actually stopped Maine. We had a success with this in Maine, and it looks like we've got another one. It's just unfolding now with Patricia on Nevada.
Right. And you can do that with the commercial courts. But what they will do is that they will whip right around and they will bring another charge forward against the British territorial person that's using your identical same name styled the same way.
Right,
And
but you've already brought that issue up, and they've already agreed that that's what they're doing. So I've now got a web page on the TASA website with 10 and probably soon to be 14 notices. So we just give that one URL in the silver bullet, and they're responsible for everything we put on that page. I want to put the mandates on there as well, the 3 mandates and some other stuff. But anyways, so there'll be 14 things that they've been noticed by us already.
yeah, well, imagine how many notices it's taken to get this far. How many different offices and individual people have been given notice. It's been in the hundreds of thousands at this point.
Right.
It's all been pretty much under notice to agents as notice to principals. So yeah, the commercial courts are the weak link in the chain, but they will try to throw you into admiralty courts, and that can be nerve-wracking at the best too. So,
but where is their sovereign delegation of authority to do that?
that would come under treaties and the 1789 Constitution, but it's all based on the false idea that you're a British subject. So the fraud is actually an identity theft and impersonation that takes place on an individual level.
Right, we've got that in there, and the thing is, the states are required to use gold and silver coin.
Right.
And so if the court is in a state that doesn't use gold and silver coin, then it's not a state, and they have no sovereign delegation of authority to even address us. And we've got all your other judgments and everything and notices in there. So individually, they're each one responsible for that, and so we can stop it right there.
Right, and that has been used successfully in Texas. So the answer of the state of Texas was to allow the use of gold money in Texas and to produce their own bullion coin.
No, that doesn't work because it says nothing other than gold and silver coin.
Yeah, well, they will try to say that they're a state trust court and that they use gold and silver with their particular gold coin.
Yeah, but it's still they have no sovereign delegation of authority to be a state. They're not a state. So
true. They will try to say that they're a confederate state, which is part of the, just the verbiage, the deceptive verbiage. So you have to stay aware of that.
Yeah, well, they're not like Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 state.
No, they're definitely not. They only have 2 horses.
Right. Yeah, that's what we bring up. So they have agreed with us that they're not an Article 1, Section 10, Clause 10, Clause 1 state, and therefore they have no delegation of authority, and therefore they're have unlimited personal liability for their actions outside any sovereign delegation of authority or contract.
Right. And then Cleopatra Haslip case
Right. Yep.
Makes their exposure almost infinite if you are looking at 800 times the damages.
Right. So the other corollary to this was you've been mentioning the Mackey process recently, and
Yeah.
the Mackey is sent to the Internal Revenue Service, right?
Well, we've sent it to the Internal Revenue Service with mixed results. We've sent it to the state of state, secretaries of state with mixed results. You know, that was a program that never got off its feet. There was never a established protocol. There was never anything about, you know, who was responsible for providing it other than the U.S. Secretary of State. So there was just one officer named as being responsible, and it was by an act of parliament. But we did finally track that down. So the only person responsible directly for the MOTSE program is Marco Rubio. He's the only one that we can prove and say, there, he's the guy responsible for providing the mutual offset credit exchange exemption, because there was never any public declaration or program or process or, you know, exposure to the public, allowing the public to access the exemption.
Okay, so then can't we just send a silver bullet to Marco Rubio? Like if we did the Mookie process and then we got a letter back from the credit card company, whatever, saying we still owed couldn't we just send it back to them and say, this is the problem of the IRS or Marco Rubio, and then do a lien against him as well?
Well, see, the only reason that the IRS is interested is that they're collecting taxes, right? And if there's an offset, there's taxes to be collected on that offset.
Right.
And so they're interested in it because they're trying to collect taxes. So, and that's how they stumble into the fact that such a thing exists. And then some of them are bright enough to have figured out that if they collect taxes on something, the transaction actually has to be done. And that's why that some of the MOTSEs that have been sent through the IRS get discharged, and people get a notice that their mortgage is paid off, right?
Right. And with UCC 3-603, payment that's refused is discharged.
Right.
We've got them both ways. So either so Besant is responsible for the IRS, right? So
absolutely, yes. And as I pointed out in a recent article, it was just within the last week, I think, that, you know, I pointed out that they did not allow us any means of paying any debt when they took the silver certificates out of circulation. They did not leave us with a means of paying in gold in their system, because we can only use commercial paper to pay commercial debts, right?
Right, but your letter of performance and demand explicitly talks about the Mookie.
Right.
So they've been noticed.
Oh, sure. But I was talking about the idea of refusing payment. They essentially have refused payment.
Right. That's what I say. So we give them the 72 hours to either correct the record or that's discharged.
Well, you can do that. You can try that. But remember, Marco Rubio is both the United States Secretary of State and the United States Secretary of State and the U.S. Secretary of State. He's wearing 3 hats. Yeah. And
but if we're sending it to the IRS, then it's Scott Besant's bailiwick, isn't it?
Well, if you're sending it to the IRS, you're basically sending to a tax collection agency, and their only interest is going to be in collecting the tax.
Yeah, but don't you
Um,
send it, don't you send it to
doesn't
the yeah, don't you send it to the IRS? Because they're the ones that are keeping the books on the corporation that's trying to collect from you. So that's where the offset happens in the IRS. Somewhere in the Treasury Department it has to happen.
Well, actually, I'm not sure that it's the Treasury Department, because when I've talked to Treasury officials, they don't know what I'm talking about when I ask them about the auto tris accounts where our credit is. So they may have some credit accounts at the Treasury that they can back off these exemptions and discharge them. There have been a couple of notable occasions where, say, a mortgage was discharged from the Treasury, but I'm in terms of going after the actual credit that the people of this country are owed, it appears that it's being managed by these huge organizations like Fidelity and PIMCO.
But they're subcontractors to the original account, right?
Yeah, and it came through the Social Security Administration, Doug.
Yeah.
The CUSIP number was the Social
Yeah.
Security number everybody recognizes, and then the auto trust number was the same number without dashes.
Right.
So it comes through the Social Security Administration, and they are the ones that have to be managing that auto trust account, and that's where the bulk of the credit that exists that could be used to counter to debt swap these mortgages, which is primarily what needs to happen. I've just been looking at it in terms of all these mortgages are foreign, and Americans don't owe any of it. So it should automatically be discharged, and we should be exempt from paying any mortgages. Even if we go through a bank to get a mortgage established, those mortgages should be discharged, and the escrow should be paid out to us.
Yeah, well, the modern money mechanics on page 3, column 2, paragraphs 5 and 6 just admit that they're creating false securities with the mortgages. And
I lost my copy of that. I lost access to that publication.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, we should have that. We should make a PDF of, a JPEG of that.
It is a PDF online.
Yeah, okay. Well, we should make a JPEG of that so that it's anyone who has a copy of the actual publication, and there are fewer people around who have it.
It's in chat now.
Sorry.
Hi?
I don't know if we have a hot mic or if Christopher was trying to contribute something.
Okay, well, anyone who has an actual copy of Money Mechanics, take JPEGs of the pages and post them so that it can be used as admissible court evidence. They won't accept PDFs because PDFs can be altered. But a JPEG, a photograph of the darn thing, that's that. And so they will accept JPEGs of the document. And I lost mine in the bandit attack.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see what I can find on that. And I think we're really getting closer and closer, and and basically all we have to do is assert our rights that we've got through the maxims of commerce judgments. I yield.
Thanks, Doug. You've worked long and hard on this. You've battled the dragon in the dragon's lair, and that's not easy. So Extra applause for Doug and the Silver Bullet team.
And also in my position, I recognize probably more than most what you have gone through, because I've been in the ballpark, not necessarily maybe in the cheap seats, but I still recognize the ball field that you're in. I yield.
Thank you. It's not tough it's not easy. It's tough everywhere.
Thank you, Doug and Anna. You know, this is a really important topic, and I was speaking with someone that is a professional CPA, you know, certified public accountant, and was talking about this topic and opting out, doing tax revocation letters, responding to the IRS threats and franchise tax board threats. And he said, you know, he said his father was studying about this for years and ultimately came to this conclusion before he passed away that where they quote get us is when we assume a job as an employee somewhere and take on a role, because those roles are defined by the British territorial system. And if someone accepts remuneration in the form of their USDs, whether it's direct deposit or check, that even if you redeem it in lawful money on the back, it's all based on this idea of willingly assuming a role, and that role then makes you not a living man or a living woman, because you're now assuming a role that's being
Well, that's what
compensated.
they do. They assume that we're an authorized representative of the municipal corporation or the British Territorial Crown Corporation, or, you know, and they try to make us the trustee, and you know, they do all sorts of tricks. But what it really comes down to is that there wouldn't even be a British Crown franchise if they weren't committing fraud and impersonation and latching us, okay? Latching our names. There wouldn't be a municipal corporation named after us if they hadn't already indulged in all of this fraud and illegal activity against us. So their courts are operating in fraud and under color of law. They're all corporate tribunals. They're all in conflict of interest, and they're all on the take because they're all getting commissions off of what they illegally latch on and confiscate. So these are just plain old-fashioned privateering and racketeering organizations, and the bar members are up for it. They're going to be the ones served up on a platter by the politicians. Everybody's going to blame them. And so if the bar members aren't getting the message by now, then they're accepting being accomplices to crime.
Can I add one more thing? Is, as I said before, in the Silver Bullet, we've got that because they have no delegation of authority, only the maxims of commerce apply. And I say specifically that their codes and rules do not apply. And so once they defaulted in 72 hours, then they've agreed with that. So they're stopped again from proceeding. I yield.
Yeah, your argument is very sound, and they should hearken to it, right? For their own good. But there are some of these people that are just so hardened, and then they get into a gang mentality. You know, they're here to fleece the public. And they think that because they've got, 10 or 12 of them all together in this little mini cartel to confiscate property illegally, that gives them some sort of extra protection because they have their little gang, right? And we've taken out over 400 quote unquote federal judges for this behavior. And you would think that it would have spread like wildfire through the bar associations nationwide, and they would all get the come to Jesus moment and stop doing what they've been doing. But in a certain way, they can't until we stand up. And so even if they've been corrected, even if they know that this is a potential, if we as Americans don't have our declaration published and recorded, they don't have an excuse for looking at us differently. What they've got from their side of this is a signed document that was signed by our mothers and signed by a medical doctor. And the problem for a member of the Bar Association is that a medical doctor is their superior officer. And they cannot overturn the testimony of a superior officer. In fact, a medical doctor's testimony counts as 2 witnesses. So they've got a document that has 3 witnesses all saying that you are a United States citizen. And they're looking at your documentation, which is you saying, no, I'm not. You see the bind that the bar is in? And they were putting that just so that they would be forced to do the bidding of the rest of the rats.
Yeah, but we've got 3 sovereigns that say otherwise.
Right. And the testimony of an adult person regarding an unconscionable contract made by third parties for a baby, we still have the right to self-declare. So, from that perspective too, self-declaration is valid. They, at our age, especially if we declared ourselves prior to whatever incident that they're trying to promote, it generally speaking kills it.
Well, I've also got void for past and present, estoppel for future is part of their agreement. I yield.
Well, if you stop it at the municipal court level with that, then that's all good, because that's what we're aiming for, is to stop it, And the municipal court, being a commercial court, is the weak link in the chain for sure. But that's kind of the realities of the situation. You get thugs and you get thugs, and if you get a group of bandits, they're bandits. Sometimes they don't stop when they should.
So it'll be estoppel in pay?
Yes.
Okay, I yield.
Awesome conversation. Thank you so much, Doug and Anna. All right, just doing a quick time check, Anna. It's almost 7 o'clock Pacific time, so it's almost 6 o'clock your time. But we have just 2 more hands up. Are you cool with 2 more questions?
They waited long enough, and I still have a voice.
Awesome. Let's go for it. Okay, Greg, you're up.
Hey, good evening. I'm Craig Frankie. I'm from the North Carolina Assembly.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a question. I just was looking for some guidance here. We have someone on the North Carolina Assembly. The person's no longer there. They don't show up to the meetings anymore, but they've stolen North Carolina assets. This person's been notified 3 times that they've stolen records, assets, money, and seals. And I thought I heard you say earlier on the podcast or on this call that you were going on this person's podcast on Saturday. So I was just curious as to, how would you suggest us dealing with this situation with this certain person and getting our assets back on the North Carolina Assembly?
Well, the truth of the matter is that most of what you're looking for is in the position of your former coordinator, Dominic. And the further truth of the matter is that any North Carolinian has the right to operate a union state assembly. So it's one of those situations where when you sign up on the state, you also sign up on the county, whether you realize that or not. It's just like, you live in Jackson County, Wisconsin. Okay, so you live in, Henry County, North Carolina. There's nothing illegal about the county assembly having a copy of your declaration. And as long as they don't misrepresent themselves as being the state, assembly, the state of the union, as long as they're not misrepresenting themselves.
Noted.
And not using anything. But I believe that the things that you're looking for are in Dominic's possession.
No, we have witnesses that that this person has the assets. So this person's been notified 3 times. I notified this person once. So we are quite certain that this person has the assets, and we have.
I have testimony that Dominic has it, and that they would have no reason. The county assemblies would have no reason to keep anything of yours, of the state assemblies.
I don't know what the reason is, but they have them.
Well, I can ask if they have them and to return the stuff if they do. Like I say, they'd have no reason to keep it. They can't use it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reason is that they have it and why they won't return it, but they have it and they won't return it.
Well, if you're looking for the lost records and stamps and seals and things of that sort, I would ask Dominic, because I was told specifically that he had them.
We know 100% that this person has them.
Have you asked Dominic?
Yes.
Recently?
Yes. About a month ago.
That isn't driving with what I was told, but anyway.
Well, I mean, you've been told this, the coordinator has notified you this several times.
Well, yes, but I keep, when I investigate, I'm told Dominic has it. And
No, Dominic doesn't.
I have a video clip that's fairly recent of Cynthia Pinkston saying that he did have it. So, who do I believe?
Your coordinators.
Cynthia is here, and Cynthia will tell you Dominic Bettistella does not have those seals as of this week. He is an international recording secretary for the Federation, not the state of North Carolina. I yield.
So he has none of your state seals?
No.
Okay, well, that could have been a, kind of a miscommunication of which kind of seals we're talking about.
Well, they have the records, they have the paperwork. It's not just the seals, they have money.
Well, I can ask what's going on. They would have no reason for keeping the state of, position, when they would have no reason to keep any seals that belong to the union's, state of the union.
I can tell you this certain person has caused the North Carolina Assembly a lot of grief, and we have tried to get these assets back, and they refuse to even acknowledge, that they have them, and they refuse to return them, and they avoid being served papers. It's just, it's not a question of whether they have them. We know they have them.
Well, they can have copies of the declaration paperwork because they're part of the Union State Assembly.
But they don't show up to the assembly anymore. So.
Well, they're not showing up for your assembly at the international state level, but they are definitely in the process of developing the Union State Assembly. You see, there are two assemblies, one for the counties
right.
and one for the state as a whole.
Right, but we're talking about assets, right?
Well, they're assets that belong equally to the county. In fact, there should be a sharing going on between.
This is paperwork and assets of the people on the General Assembly, people that don't attend this person's assembly, county assembly. Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, why would this person be holding on to this paperwork?
Listen to what I'm telling you. When you declare and you make your statement and you publish it, number one, it becomes a public document and it's there for all to see. Number two, when you declare on a state, you also, at the same moment, declare on a county. You have two hats on your head, right? And you can wear either one of them. You can wear your state hat and you can conduct international business, or you can wear your county hat and conduct local business. You have both offices right there, and they both depend upon your declaration. Okay, so technically what should be happening is that as the counties are becoming populated and county assemblies are being organized, the State of the Union Assembly should be sharing that information that so and so and so and so signed up on your county. Here's their contact information so that you can notify them about county meetings. Okay, but you are not obligated. As an American, you don't have any, you're not obligated to serve the government. Okay, so you can go to either one or both or neither of the assemblies. It's your choice.
Right, but she has the original founding documents for the state. Why would she be holding on to that?
If she has the original founding documents, I would be very surprised that she did, because where would she get them? But anyway, I will ask.
She got them from Alan Stein. They were Alan Stein's original documents, along with Gerard Wilkerson. Those are our founding documents. That was Stein, that was with Terry Salmon, the first original assembly. I yield.
Put them out of our storage.
Well, anyway, we've taken up enough time going over North Carolina for now.
Okay, well, I just wanted to, get some clarification or maybe some guidance from you, because she's caused the North Carolina Assembly a lot of grief, and it's it doesn't bode well when we hear that you're going on her podcast. But I just wanted to thank you for your time. I yield.
Well, I think that you all need to make amends and friends and stop the wild accusations all around. I would be very surprised if she has these documents, but if she does, I will certainly ask her.
She definitely has them. And we invite her to the assembly every Tuesday, and she doesn't show.
Well, I guess we'll just hope that everybody learns to play together nicely in the future.
Oh, we played together very nicely.
Well, if Florida can do it, I have confidence North Carolina could do it too.
Amen. Yep. Well, Well, and that's just like what I say. You should be looking at each other as if you're the most precious thing that ever happened. Okay,
All right.
can we go on?
Yeah, we'll move on. Thank you, Craig. And I pray that you guys can work it out as a family. All right. Deanne on Utah. Go ahead, Deanne.
So first of all, Anna, just want to thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing and have done. The more that I read and think and do, the more I realize you're just amazing. And I know that you hear it, but I just want you to feel it and know how much you're appreciated. I'm just in awe. I was listening to Tony Talks and just listening to all the respect and what he was saying about you, and it really touched me. Kind of crying, but thank you so much. So just wanted to throw that your way. My question that I just wanted to ask is, could you just touch a little bit on nepotism and how that could affect things to be overturned? Like if there's nepotism in our committees or nepotism in different things, how having too many family members doing something could create like documents or things that all are stacked in one way so that later we're going to have to rewrite them and change them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I yield.
Yeah, you can get into a conflict of interest if you've got so many people in the same family and they're all kind of, operating as a mini cartel, and we appreciate everybody being members and everything, but you have to try to avoid that so that you've got a representation of the real, body at large represented when you're undertaking, say, committees and have more than just one family taking over a whole committee, for example. That's not kosher. We need to have representation and participation from as many people as we can. And, kind of breaking it up so that there are members of just the general populace filling up these committees is what's needed. Because you don't want to get a situation where, say, you've got the oversight committee is you got 6 members of the same family on a 9-person committee. That just does not look good. It doesn't. It just is a conflict of interest.
I got to a point where I almost invited all my family members on a call and just had them say, yeah, after everything I said, just as a joke. But no, I didn't do it. I promise. I've been so kind. But yeah, it's just really hard when you have one family member saying something and then you have another family member backing it up, and it's an attack from all sides. It's hard.
Well, I would just, nepotism is strictly a crime in government. And it's actionable. I don't think that they, realize that. I don't think that they mean to do anything, criminal, or they may just be thinking of it in terms of like stacking the deck, which is common in the de facto system, But we don't do things according to majority rule. We do things according to individual rule. And so it would be best if you self-limit to, say, no more than 2 members of the same family on any committee. Or, something like that that's reasonable, but doesn't allow for them to just say, come take over the oversight committee or come take over the vetting committee. And you could establish that easily enough with a general assembly vote, as, you know, part of your decorum rules.
Okay, I had just one more question. Is there any way that we can send AFDs to your account? I tried, but I don't know the right email to do that. So I don't know if you're accepting money that way or not.
Well, we've done that in the past, but right now I think that they're going through a lot of internal kind of rehashing and double checking and everything. Speaking of Tony Carroll, he was accused of leaking private information and spreadsheets of some accounts that were set up for people in South Africa. And he was proven not guilty. Okay, so he was targeted. Somebody set up this big lie and this furor and made sure that Tony got blamed for it. But Tony was not guilty. He was proven not guilty by both GFG IT specialists and by our guys, our IT guys. So we know for sure that Tony was not responsible for that disclosure of anyone's personal account information. It's difficult to get back far enough to determine who actually did it, where the generated IPN was, because they use so many different VPN services that bounce the apparent location or the apparent source. It takes a lot of research to get all the way back, and we just haven't had the manpower and the time to do it yet. But Tony was totally vindicated and exonerated from any responsibility for that. And Hunter knows that. I have brought that forward. I have had Josh Pelletier and Shannon Bookie both have told him the results of the investigation into it, and there is no way that Tony was guilty of that. So it was somebody else who did that, for probably just to get Tony in trouble, frankly, and to make it look like someone that had very briefly had administrative contact had done something wrong with it. And it wasn't Tony. So I want everybody to know that too, in case you hear any continuing gossip about Tony from anybody in GFG out, you know, in the international venues. There's been a couple of concerning things that have developed with the bank. There are several different potential allies and potential inroads that would greatly change and improve everything for us. And we're definitely we're in pursuit of those options and opportunities. But as I was explaining at the beginning of this long session, this whole thing is basically built as a house of cards. And it was all based on fraud to begin with. So deconstructing it begins with the banks, because the banks are responsible for paying everyone. So the banks are right where that crux comes. That's kind of where all these issues gather together at the center of the spider web. So, for example, I have complained long and hard that Serco, a British corporation of MI6, it's run by their senior executive service, which is basically retired high-level bureaucrats. So the Serco Corporation, which is British Municipal Corporation, is the paymaster for our military, which makes no sense. And so we're trying to address issues like that as we're going through the whole process of the bank development. People don't have any idea how complex some of this stuff is and what we're being kind of hook or by crook, whether we want to or not, called to do. And so it's an extremely complex situation when you start looking at providing banking systems for 8 billion people. And Global, which started out to be a bank for banks, got thrown into this position. And they're doing the best they possibly can, as fast as they can, with as few glitches as they can. And there have been some acts of fraud, some attacks on us, as you know. So it's hard for people to overall understand what's real and what isn't, because the fraud artists are good. But for the most part, everything is on track. Hunter and I have remained in contact, and we have, for the most part, been able to see eye to eye on, the mission objective, and all those things have remained steady. So we're hoping that these glitches notwithstanding, we'll be able to forge forward and pretty quickly resolve the remaining issues. We've got a major asset claim on behalf of the people of Tartaria, which at one time included most of Eastern Europe, all the way across to Western Europe, the northern countries of Western Europe. And the issue there is that they were basically destroyed by the Roman government, the city of Rome government. And the 13 bloodline families were the ones that actually received all of the assets, but they did it by deceit and by genocide. And so they were going to try to parcel things up and just leave that on the table, so to speak, which would have been immediately rolled over by the Khazars, the cabal. And so we put in the claim on behalf of all the people living there now, so that they will inherit instead of the no good nicks that murdered all those people. And that's, I felt like I had to do that because they are, their haplogroup, their blood has the haplogroup X designation, and it follows all the way across the northern European countries into Greenland and Canada and the eastern United States. So long ago, these were our people too.
I think that answers the question of why Europe, because people have asked, well, why Europe next? But that makes a lot of sense. I yield.
Thank you. All right, you guys, we made it. I see one more name, Renee Marie from Michigan.
That's right. Go ahead, Renee Marie.
It's just a clarifying question. You were talking about counties earlier, and we only need 2 people to populate. And I just wondered, and I probably know the answer is probably yes, but I'm just going to ask for clarity. Can it be a husband and wife, or a dad and a daughter? Um,
Dad and daughter would work. Husband and wife are one person before the law. The
okay.
law, both public and corporate, considers you one entity. That's why they cannot force a wife to give testimony against a husband, and can't require a husband to give testimony against a wife.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. And you've been beautiful tonight. Great, great, great work, everybody.
Yes, everybody, congratulations. You've managed to slog through this far.
Oh, wait, I have a question.
You would.
I think it's an easy one. There's got to be a quick and easy answer. So on the LRO, I don't know if you know this or not, but we can't view email addresses for new members of our assemblies. So the only way that we'll know if we have a new member is if a state assembly recording secretary comes onto our call and announces, hey, I status corrected this person, this man or woman, or if they announce it themselves. But we have no way of inviting them. And somewhat like what was happening with, stamps and seals that are not being returned, we do have recording secretaries that don't participate, and they have their stamps and seals. So we have no idea whether or not they're actually helping anybody or anything, because they don't come to meetings. So I was just wondering, how do we reach the people that are status corrected and on the LRO? It says we have over 700 that have email addresses on the system, but we can't download. There's a button that says you could download the emails, but when I do, there's only 27 emails that pop up, and they're from, the forever ago list,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering, Anna, how do we connect with our status corrected people to let them know we have meetings?
You should be getting that information. I don't know why you're not. That sounds like, capturing a field and being able to download it. And that's an IT question. Basically, we'll have to ask the IT team in charge of the LRO if they can come up with something to capture that information as a ongoing updated list.
Okay.
That would be ideal. But we're obviously going to give Terry some break time and some recover time. She tried so hard to save her little dog.
I'm sorry.
I know.
Okay. Definitely. We won't bombard with this question. We'll wait till later, several weeks.
Well, that's certainly something that should be happening, but anyway, it's another one of those projects.
Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you for your precious time and for being with us and for educating us and leading us in the right path. So
everybody, take some time out this weekend. Celebrate being an American. Celebrate all the work you put in to make the American government alive again. And consider yourselves all thanked and hugged from me. I hope that you have a very peaceful time, that you look forward to being with your families and your friends, or maybe just being alone on a lakeside or watching the sunset. That can be good too. But whatever you do, this is your moment to be proud of yourselves and all the work that you've put in over the past year, and proud of your American heritage, which is a precious heritage. It's a real testament to fine people good people who had a wonderful vision for humanity, and they deserve to see their dream realized in the world at large. So let's go forward and make it happen, Captain.
Awesome. Happy
Take
Independence
care,
Day.
guys.
Thank you, Anna.
Good night. God bless.
Good night, Grandma.
Good night.
Good night, Anna. Thank you.
I'll have some peach ice cream for you.
Good night, Anna.
Hey, John, have two. Have two.
All right. Get some rest. Go get a bubble bath.
Hey, there's a thought. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night, everybody. Have a great holiday, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Michelle, may I?
Oh, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, so what Anna was talking about there at the end, just to tie everything together, we are all heirs to our heritage. All those words are, so if we look at each other as family members, we're all heirs to this wonderful inheritance. I yield.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Doug.
Michelle, before we go, I just want to say 4th of July is 2 years for the Ohio Assembly for their affirmations of office. We took office on July 4th, 2024. So 2 years.
Woohoo! Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That's awesome, Lisa.
All right.